That game in New York back in 2013 where Steph dropped 54 points was when the basketball world stopped and said, "This dude is dangerous." Then when he put Matthew Dellavedova into a blender and hit that bomb in the finals, the basketball world stopped and said, "This man is the real deal." Then when he hit that game winner against OKC from like half court, the basketball world stopped and said, "Sheesh." After the Warriors' 2020 season, however, when KD left, when Klay was out, and Curry himself was out, a lot of people surprisingly thought Steph Curry's reign as the best basketball player on the planet was over, and that he was no longer dangerous. Well, Steph heard the noise, he heard the doubts, he heard the slander, and from that point on, he set out to set the NBA on fire. Here are 7 moments when Steph Curry reconvinced the world that he's still dangerous. We're going to start things off with that controversial take by Dame Time about the chef.
Right now, with the injuries that the Warriors been dealing with, and Steph playing with a younger team right now, he's saying that it's tough to get those quality looks right now. It's different than what it's looked like, over the last 4 or 5 years for him. So he's trying to get quality looks and get a clean look so he can make a good one. You don't really have that luxury to just take one from that deep, just to be taking it.
Basically, Lillard was low-key insulting Steph in that clip, saying that he'll now see how tough it is to get shots off because he's playing with a bunch of scrubs. Anyway, after dropping those statements, the Blazers and the Warriors actually had a scheduled matchup 2 days later, which made everything that much more interesting. Now, amidst all this, Steph didn't say a word back to Lillard and just kept his mouth shut. Come game time, however, well, let's just say he wasn't as quiet. I mean, here's how he responded.
They're going to make noise in the West. Curry around Covington, past Nurkic, lay it up for 54, but Steph went for 56 by himself. Curry from deep, 59. Draymond finds him, another 3, got it, 62.
In response to Lillard's hot take, the chef answered back with fire and fury. He dropped a total of 62 points across 4 quarters while shooting 58% from the field, 50% from 3, while only missing 1 free throw out of 19 attempts. And you know what? That 62 marker actually ranks as the second highest scoring output of any point guard in NBA history. Steph was actually only 2 points shy of beating Jerry West's record of 63 points. This was when the basketball world was once again reminded just how dangerous Steph actually is. Anyway, after the dust settled, Lillard went over to Steph to congratulate him for his otherworldly performance. Then, when he got on Twitter later that evening, he tweeted this photo to apologize for his words. Now, if you think dropping 62 points as a response to a 30-second controversial clip isn't bad enough, Curry actually upped the ante as he put the whole league on notice just 2 months later by having a scoring rampage like no other. See, in April of 2021, the chef torched every team he faced, and for the month, he ended up averaging 37.3 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 4.6 assists, while shooting 51.8% from the field and 46.6% from 3. With this kind of crazy stat line, the NBA world, and in specific the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns, who were the number 1 and number 2 seed at the time, were just hoping that the Warriors would lose in the play-in tournament because, trust me, no one wanted to see Steph in the playoffs. Anyway, if people still weren't convinced that he was that dangerous, here's another moment that might have swayed their minds. See, prior to their home opener against the Clippers in the 2021-2022 season, Curry struggled and had a bad game against the Lakers where he only shot 24% from the field and 25% from 3. Now, in the second game of that season, the Clippers thought Curry was still on that hangover, but this is the part where they got it all wrong. From the opening tip, Curry shrugged off his shooting hangover by shooting a perfect game to end up with 25 first-quarter points. Now, the Clippers did fight back hard, though, to keep things close until the fourth, but Paul George still didn't believe that Curry was dangerous, and so he proceeded to say this to him.
Make it interesting. Let me get one. I give you one, you give me one. I'm from the logo with it.
Man, he was daring Curry to shoot from the logo, so With the Warriors down 2 with a little under 2 to go, Steph just went ahead and accepted the challenge and splashed one from half court. Then, a minute later, the Warriors once again found themselves down by 1 until Curry hit this crazy shot. When it was all said and done, Curry turned in a masterful performance, racking up 45 points while shooting a ridiculous 64% from the field and 61.5% from downtown. I'm pretty sure Curry ended up convincing Paul George that he's still one dangerous dude, because here's what PG-13 had to say after the game.
I think you just have to just know where he's at. He's so good. Like, he's just complete package offensively.
Anyway, just a few weeks later, Curry was once again going to convince the world why he is nicknamed the baby-faced assassin, and this time around, his victim happened to be Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. At this point in time, the Hawks just came off an Eastern Conference Finals appearance where Trae Young looked like a superstar, and collectively, as a team, they even pushed the eventual champs to 6 games. The Hawks team was no pushover by any means, and in fact, they were a team on the rise. Whereas the Warriors, at this point, they had a good record, but the media was blasting them, saying it was because they had an easy schedule. I mean, they were on a 4-game winning streak, but those 4 opponents were the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Charlotte Hornets, the New Orleans Pelicans, without Zion or Ingram, and the Houston Rockets. The Hawks were going to be one of their first tests of the season, but what ended up happening that game was this.
Set a screen for Steph, let him work on Herder. Like that. Curry 3. Reddish not reaching, trying to move his feet. Curry 3. Not quell this momentum, it's too much. After the step back 3.
Curry's hands were smoking that night as he turned in a 50-point, 10-assist double-double performance while shooting 50% from the field and knocking down 9 3-pointers. All the media haters were speechless after that game. Slowly but surely, they knew this man is in fact still dangerous. Anyway, guys, let's move on to the playoffs of that year when all eyes were on Curry, but for some reason, some people still weren't sure just how good he was when compared to other superstars. See, last season, practically everyone was saying that it was Luka's time or it was Doncic's world after he owned the Suns to get Dallas into the Western Conference Finals once again after 11 years. Now, most people were so wrapped up over the amazing performance that Luka just had against the Suns that they forgot about the chef. But in Game 1 of their matchup, Curry immediately reminded the world just why he's a 2-time MVP. By the third quarter, the Dubs were already slowly pulling away as the lead continued to balloon, and then came that possession that I'll never forget. Curry sent a direct message to Luka that there's levels to this game. At this point, everybody knew Steph Curry is the most dangerous man in the Western Conference, but they were still convinced that Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics were more deadly. Well, after 3 games into the 2022 NBA Finals, they doubled down on their conviction. In their bones, they knew they were right. That was until Game 4, where Steph Curry made them realize just how wrong they were. I'm sure Big Perkins and JJ Redick couldn't believe what they were seeing as Steph went full unanimous MVP mode and pulled off one of the greatest performances in NBA Finals history. 43 points, 10 rebounds, 54% from the field, 50% from 3, 8 for 9 from the free throw line. Sheesh, guys. Everybody in the world who knew what basketball was watched this game. There was no more convincing needed to be done. Steph Curry showed the world that he was the most dangerous and baddest dude on the planet. But after the summer, after the offseason, the media was back at it again, saying that Steph Curry and the Warriors were done after letting go of half the roster. They actually were saying that again, for crying out loud. So to start the 2022-23 season, the Cavaliers, with Donovan Mitchell now in the mix, started off hot. They looked good, they looked dangerous, and the truth is, they were. Meanwhile, after grabbing the championship last season, the Warriors started their campaign flat, and based on their body language, it seemed like they hadn't found their usual rhythm at that time with 5 wins and 7 losses. The two teams were matched up, and clearly the Cavs had all the momentum going into this one. I'm sure that as a team on the rise, they wanted to prove something by taking out the defending champs. Steph Curry, however, had other plans. He wasn't about to hand over the torch just yet, and he made sure to emphasize that with his game. Throughout the game, the man just couldn't miss, and there was nothing the Cavaliers defense could do to stop him. Then came crunch time, and with the game on the line, Steph once again showed why he's still the top dog.
Steph in close quarters gets it back, 3 to tie. Steph, 3. Got it!
40 points on just 23 shots is absolutely absurd, but that's Steph Curry's box score. With a crazy performance like that, it makes me wonder if Kendrick Perkins even believes the words that are coming out of his own mouth.